Hi, everybody. Welcome to the teacher feature of the International Herb Symposium. I'm so happy to have Robert Rogers here talking about his class on medicinal lichens based on a book that came out, what, last year?
Yeah, February of this year.
February. So still pretty hot off the press. So we're really excited to have you come to Cincinnati, and maybe you can, talk a little bit about your book and maybe some highlights from your that you'll be talking about in your class.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, I really look forward to seeing everybody in Cincinnati. The reason I wrote the book was that years ago, 2011, I think I published a book called The Fungal Pharmacy, and I had a little chapter in the back, I think 32 pages about lichens, and it always felt inadequate. And so, as you know, I live in northern Canada, where 6 months of the year you have lots of time to do research and write because you don't want to necessarily go outdoors. So I took a deep dive and started looking at lichens, and then I realized I better confine it to North American lichens, simply because it was going to get unruly. There was so much
Hmm.
information, and so I decided to go indigenous knowledge, how indigenous people used it for food and clothing and medicine, etc., and then the modern pharmacology associated with what are these very unique compounds that lichens produce as part of their life cycle, and even more than that, what really interested me about lichens was there probably would be no plant life uh, on the planet if the algae had not been able to somehow secure and make a relationship with fungi and the cyanobacteria, the algae, the fungi, actually creating organisms that could survive in extreme environments, everything from a hot desert to an extreme polar cold. And so they are amazing organisms. I call them holobionts in the sense that they actually allow more things to go on in our environment than you can imagine. So
What is
that's
that word again? What is it?
holo
Holobions?
a holobiont, and it's a term that I coined that actually Merlin Sheldrake, coined it in his book, and I used it in mine, the holobiont, because it's not really a synergistic, it's not really a commensal, it's not really a parasitic, and all of these type of things that people talk about. These the algae, cyanobacteria, and fungi, they actually need each other and they respect each other and they live together and they create unique opportunities and chemicals. And what really interested me was some of the chemistry that actually makes some of the drug-resistant bacteria much more susceptible to some of the antibiotics that no longer work very well. So
Mm.
there's synergistic effect going on there, as well as, everything else from cardiovascular to cancer to diabetes. There's lots of things that lichens have traditionally been used for, and now modern pharmacology is confirming the efficacy of them. So yeah, it's a great
Yeah,
book. Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I think of them as like rock eaters. They're able to
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's my
div
favorite. My favorite joke is like that. Is so Annie Algae and Freddie Fungus got together and got married, but now it's on the rocks.
That's great.
Yeah.
Do you feel like if these medicinal lichens were to, gain popularity, that there's sustainable ways to encourage cultivation for sustainable harvest? I don't know that I'm just kind of curious about.
Well, I think that's a very critical point, and I do bring it up in my talk, is that some of the lichens take eons to grow
Right.
a millimeter, and those definitely should not be harvested. Take a nice
Hmm.
picture of them, respect them, acknowledge them for what they are, and also recognize that the chemistry that they contain can be done in a synthetic matter. You
Yeah.
don't
Oh,
have to
interesting.
harvest. But in the other case, Like in, for example, one genus called Bryoria. In northern Saskatchewan, there are tons of those lichens per acre. So,
Mm,
so it depends on what part of the world you're talking about. I mean, northern
yeah.
Canada has its fair share of, including most herbalists know Usnea and
Hmm.
and very few other lichens, but I explore about 400 of them in the book.
Wow. Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, I mean, I think there's also, just the element of, medicinal kelps and, kelp farming. And I think that's, another realm that is really on the cusp of transforming things.
I
Um,
agree. Yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
think I think it's really important to that, when people say sustainability, sometimes I question it. It's for example, on the internet, everybody harvests shaga sustainably.
Hmm.
Really, I doubt it. Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't even,
Yeah.
that's just a word that's used, but it's not really happening. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, I'm super excited about this book and diving deeper into the medicinal lichens. And I think you mentioned briefly that you're kind of busy with another book in the works.
Oh, another book. It's already at the printer. In September, I'm going to be doing the Fern Pharmacy. It's a little takeoff on fungal pharmacy.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's the same idea that we have a plethora of ferns around that people sort of just walk by in the woods. And some of them are they grow quite readily. And so I'm not as concerned about them as I am about lichens. And I was kind enough that both Chris Hobbs and Matthew Wood gave me little praise quotes for the back cover of the Fern.
Oh, awesome.
So they like the book. So if they like it, I think there'll be other people who like it as well. Yeah. And
Right.
it comes out in early September. So I may try to get my publisher to get a few of those to Cincinnati.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I mean, Christopher Hobbs and Matt Wood will both be at the International Herb Symposium, so
Oh,
that's
oh,
pretty,
oh, is Matt coming?
yeah,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Oh, good. We just co-authored two books, Matt and I. So that's
I
interesting.
mean, yeah, I mean, well, all three of you are really prolific writers. So, uh,
Yeah, I wish I was as good a writer as Matt, but
yeah.
yeah.
He really is a good storyteller, I think, in his writing. Um, and yeah, so you're excited to come to Cincinnati because you know about the Lloyd Library. And
Exactly.
have you been to the Lloyd Library before, or will this
Never,
be?
never. No, I didn't know about the American Herbalist Guild until year two, which was held in Boulder. So I missed the inaugural one.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I want to see it. How
Uh-huh.
much time I'll spend there, I don't know. I'm also interested in I heard the sanctuary is just lovely. So
Yeah.
I'm going to be torn which one to do.
Yeah.
But I'm really happy that I've been invited to participate and share and look forward to seeing everybody there. Yeah.
Awesome. And is there anything else that, you would like to share about, or any tidbit that you found really interesting when you were diving into either one of these books?
Whoa, I don't know where to start with that. Lots of very interesting things. I mean, sometimes I was quite surprised the literature that is out there and the research that has been previously done. Um, but I signed up with my new publisher, and I've got a couple more in the works. There's going to be a book on moss medicine coming out in January. So
No.
they've got a bunch in a row that are interesting. And then I took a deep dive into medicinal cacti as well, which is
Mm,
a really fascinating. So I've been busy in the winters, trying
yeah,
to
right. Well,
keep
it's
my,
interesting because there's like all these medicinal plant books, and usually it'll be like one or two pages about those things, right? When really that's how I that's how I felt about and maybe this will be a primer for a book or a collaborative book, is that when I did my fellowship at the Lloyd Library, I focused on parasitic medicinal plants. And I was so blown away because you kind of had this tidbit of information, but then I was like made aware that actually parasitic plants are found in almost every ecosystem. And there's, so many, and I say that word parasitic because that's just the term we have to define them. There's so many different types of, parasitic plants, and ranges, but that's what I focused on my fellowship when I was at the Lloyd Library, really going back to, I was trying to find like the earliest herbals that I could find that talked about medicinal plants. And, one of the earliest plants is really the mistletoe, which was
Right.
so blatantly obvious that it was parasitic, but it was so mythical and medicinal to the Druids. And so that really is what sort of one parasitic medicinal that appears very early on in herbals. But I really loved my time at the Lloyd Library,
Mm,
and that was a big reason why I wanted to do the International Herb Symposium in Cincinnati, because I really wanted to make more people aware of the Lloyd Library. I really wanted to talk about the eclectics themselves and get people re-energized about the history of eclectic medicine and the journals that the eclectic medicine school produced. I think it's just a wealth of knowledge that's really just waiting to be rediscovered. So that's kind of my hope and kind of inspiration for the international, is that it kind of reinvigorates the understanding and wealth of knowledge that the eclectics left behind. And of course, Curtis Gates Lloyd was, really one of the preeminent North American mycologists um, of his time. And so I hope it just reignites, a new generation of plant people and fungi people and lichen people and fern people to kind of dive into the history. And I loved what you said, that once you kind of really got into it, you realized that actually there was a lot of really cool research out there that maybe early anthropologists did, or that early ethnobotanists, or early encounters with native cultures that was documented with the use of these plants.
yeah, way more ethno-lichenology than there is ethnomycology in North America.
Wow.
Yeah, way more. Yeah, it's very interesting that there's very little in the mushroom world that were collected by indigenous peoples. Not that much information. I mean, little.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's so interesting, right? Because the craze in mushrooms has just exploded. And I think they're, not that these mushrooms aren't medicinal, but I think it does need to be weighed somewhat with um, indigenous knowledge and research, right? Needs
right.
to be some kind of balance.
Yeah, I think.
And go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that most of the medicinal mushroom information has long generations from Asia, Korea,
Hmm.
China, Japan. That's where that comes from. And there wasn't really any kind of an awareness in North America until fairly recently. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I'm excited about your class, and I'm excited to get my hands on your book. And just want to, thank you for taking this time to do this little teacher feature. And we'll put it out in all different types of social media, and hope that it, gets people excited.
Yeah, I thank you very much for all the work it's going to take to put this on, and I really appreciate that you've moved the location to Cincinnati. Gives me the opportunity to come down, see the Lloyd, but also some of my colleagues. It's very rare that we get together once a year or every couple of years. I haven't seen Matt for a couple of years. I did a whole thing with Chris Hobbs out of Atlanta about a year ago. But yeah, it's always nice to connect with your colleagues. Always
Hmm.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Christopher Hobbs has done uh, a fungi list for United Plant Savers, and
Oh, good. Oh,
it's on
good.
our it's on our website. So and we try to, you know, add to it if we find new species. But he has spent a lot of time at the sanctuary, and over the years he's helped us develop this sort of, you know, running checklist of mycology, and so that's pretty neat.
Oh, well, I think I better go to the sanctuary if he's going to hang. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well,
um,
thank you very much and look forward to seeing you down there in person and take care.
okay, awesome.